Why people secretly hate you, Carl Jung. There's a night you'll never forget. You're standing in a room full of people, old co-workers, friends you've known for years, maybe family, the kind of people who are supposed to feel like home. But something's off, not in any obvious way. Nobody yelled at you, nobody hurt you, just something out of tune, like a song playing a half-step flat. Like there's an invisible wall between you and them, and you're the only one who can see it. The conversations feel rehearsed. Smiles arrive a beat too late. Someone changes the subject the moment you start to speak. Someone else looks away right when you finally meet their eyes. You go home. You turn off the light. You sit alone, replaying the whole evening in your head, frame by frame. What did you do wrong? You didn't pick a fight. You didn't say anything offensive. You didn't cross a single line. You behaved exactly like you always do, kind, polite, asking for nothing. And yet that distance was real. That coldness was real. That feeling of being quietly pushed out of an invisible circle you used to call home, that was real too. So, you start asking yourself, in the smallest voice in your head, am I imagining this? Am I being too sensitive? Is this me? Stop right there. Take a breath. You're not imagining it. You're not being paranoid. And you're definitely not too sensitive. What you felt that night is one of the oldest, most consistent patterns in human psychology. A pattern the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung spent his entire life studying and warning people about. And once you understand what's actually going on, the confusion starts to lift. Not because everything gets easier, but because you finally stop blaming yourself for something that was never your fault to begin with. Today, you're going to learn how to see straight through that fog. Why awareness makes you a threat, why growth makes you a target, and why the most honest version of you will always make certain people deeply uncomfortable in a way they will never, ever admit out loud. If this opening already touched something in you, stay till the end, because by the time we're done, you won't need to ask the question, what did I do wrong, anymore. Number 1, there's something hidden underneath every conflict. Most of us grew up with a simple model of conflict. Someone says something cruel. Someone breaks a promise. Someone lies, cheats, or lets you down in some clear and visible way. Every conflict has a cause, and the cause is always right there in front of you. But Carl Jung looked beneath that surface, and what he found was far more unsettling. Jung argued that the strongest, most common form of social hostility has almost nothing to do with what you actually did. It has to do with something else entirely. It has to do with what your presence makes them feel about themselves. This is the insight that changes everything. And to really get it, you need to understand one of Jung's foundational ideas, the shadow. Every person alive carries two versions of themselves. There's the version they show the world, put together, reasonable, generally decent, responsible. Jung called this the persona, Latin for mask. The persona is the face designed for public life. It's how they want to be seen, the identity they've built, maintained, and defended for years. And then there's everything else. The shadow is the part that wasn't allowed in. It's the anger they buried because expressing it felt dangerous. The envy they couldn't admit because admitting it felt shameful. The hunger for status. The quiet pettiness. The fear of being ordinary. The sheer terror of looking in the mirror and not measuring up. The shadow isn't really evil. It's just everything a person rejected about themselves in order to keep the persona they preferred. Here's the most important thing you need to remember. The shadow never goes away. You can ignore it. You can bury it. You can stack layer after layer of persona on top of it and walk around for decades pretending it isn't there. But it stays, quietly, patiently, waiting. And when something or someone out in the world brushes up against it, even gently, the psychological system reacts. It reacts defensively. It reacts angrily. It reacts, in many cases, with something that feels a whole lot like hatred. And you? You didn't do a thing. You were just standing there, being yourself. Number 2, why awareness turns you into a threat. Here's the uncomfortable truth about becoming more perceptive. The more clearly you see people, what they do, why they do it, the gap between what they say and what they actually mean, the more threatening you become to anyone still wrapped up in their own mask. Not because you said anything, not because you called anyone out, but because your presence introduces a single dangerous possibility. This person might have seen what I'm hiding, and that possibility alone is enough to set off every defense they've got. Put yourself in their shoes for a second. They've spent years, sometimes decades, carefully managing how others see them. They project confidence even when they feel hollow inside. They perform generosity while quietly keeping score. They smile at the right moments, say the right things, and work very hard to make sure nobody looks too closely. Then someone walks into the room, and that someone just sees. That person isn't impressed by the performance. They're not fooled by the social theater. They don't have to say a word. Their calm, their directness, their visible indifference to the games everyone else is playing, all of it registers as a threat. Their presence becomes a kind of exposure. Jung called what happens next projection. Instead of facing the discomfort internally, instead of asking, why does this person make me uneasy? What does that say about me? The mind takes a much easier exit. It blames the person who triggered the feeling. Suddenly, you're not someone with clarity. You're arrogant, you're judgmental, you're cold, you're weird, you're a lot. The accusation has nothing to do with you. It's their shadow looking for somewhere to land. And you, by accident, become the landing pad. And once that projection takes hold, something important shifts. People stop responding to who you actually are. They start responding to what your presence stirs up inside them. You can be patient, kind, and consistent every single day, and it won't change anything, because they're not looking at you anymore. They're looking at the mirror your presence holds up, and they hate what they see in it. That's not your fault. Number 3. The 7 ways you quietly unsettle people. Let's get specific. Because this dynamic never announces itself, it shows up in small, hard-to-name moments that stack up over time into a pattern you can't ignore anymore. 1. You reflect what they've been avoiding. Imagine you've started doing the work. You've gotten serious about your health, your finances, your emotional reactions. You're not preaching to anyone. You're not posting about it every day. You're just living differently. And then, something subtle starts to shift in a few of your friendships. The jokes get a little sharper. The comments get a little more dismissive. You're obsessed now. You're way too serious. You've changed. Nobody says it directly. Everything has plausible deniability. But the pattern is unmistakable. Your growth has become a mirror. Your discipline reflects their avoidance. Your consistency reflects their excuses. You didn't put that mirror there on purpose, but it's there, and some people simply cannot tolerate what they see in it. So the target of that discomfort shifts from themselves onto you. It's not your fault. It's just psychological physics. 2. You represent what they gave up on. People rarely resent someone who's struggling more than they are. Resentment almost always flows upward. It points to the person who represents what, somewhere deep down, the resentful one knows they could have done, could have become. The coworker who actually finishes what they start. The friend who finally walked away from the relationship that was killing them. The family member who went back to school at the age when everyone else had given up. These people aren't attacking anyone, but their existence quietly indicts the choices everyone around them made. When you represent a possibility someone else quietly abandoned, you become inconvenient. Bringing you down, labeling you as lucky, arrogant, out of touch, is the easiest way to make that discomfort stop. Don't take that label. It's not about you. It's about the dreams they buried. 3. You've stopped needing their approval. This one is subtle, and it's almost always misread. Most relationships, whether we like to admit it or not, are held together partly by mutual dependency. One person needs validation, the other needs to feel needed. One provides emotional labor, the other provides status. The whole system stays balanced as long as everyone plays their part. When you start becoming psychologically independent, when you stop chasing approval, stop over-explaining yourself, stop calibrating your behavior to what other people might think, something strange happens to the people around you. The leverage disappears. The usual emotional levers stop working. From your perspective, this is growth. From theirs, it feels like rejection. Because what you're actually doing, even unintentionally, is removing them from a position of informal influence they may not have known they were relying on. They can't explain the feeling, so their mind reframes it. You've gotten distant, you've changed, you think you're better than us now. What they're really describing is the loss of control they used to have over you. But you became emotionally independent is much harder to admit than you became arrogant. 4. They can't predict you anymore. Social manipulation, and I mean the everyday, mostly unconscious kind, runs on predictable reactions. If I press this button, I get that response. If I make you feel guilty, you'll apologize. If I criticize you, you'll work harder for my approval. If I praise you, you'll soften. If I get angry, you'll rush to fix it. When you stop reacting the way they expect, the entire script breaks down. You're not hostile. You're not aggressive. You just don't bite on the usual hooks anymore. You don't take the bait. You don't perform the expected emotional reaction. And for someone who has been running that playbook even without realizing it, your non-reaction is deeply unsettling, because it means you can see the game. And people who depend on not being seen playing the game will never feel comfortable around someone who's clearly, quietly, without making a fuss, watching the whole thing unfold. 5. You refuse to maintain the comfortable lie. Every social group, every friend circle, every family, every workplace runs on a set of unspoken agreements. We don't talk about certain things. We pretend certain behaviors are normal. We collectively agree not to look too closely at the dynamics that, if anyone named them out loud, would create chaos. These agreements aren't always malicious. They're often just the path of least resistance, the social glue that keeps everything from blowing up. But they're still fictions, and maintaining them requires everyone's participation. When you stop participating, when you decline to laugh at the joke that isn't really funny, when you decline to agree with the thing you genuinely don't agree with, when you name the dynamic that everyone is pretending not to see, you become a problem. Not because you attacked anyone, but because you broke the agreement, and groups protect their agreements aggressively, usually without realizing they're doing it. 6. You started saying no. For a long time, you were probably easy to reach, easy to lean on, easy to take for granted. You said yes when you meant no. You absorbed things you shouldn't have absorbed. You showed up for people who rarely showed up for you. People appreciated this, but rarely on a conscious level. What they actually experienced was comfort. The comfort of knowing there was someone in their life with boundaries soft enough that they could behave however they wanted, with no real consequences. And then something changed. You started drawing lines. You pulled back from arrangements that were costing you more than they gave. You said no, and this time you meant it. And the people who'd benefited from your lack of boundaries, some of whom genuinely cared about you, experienced that change as a loss. What came next was rarely honest. They didn't say, "I liked it better when I could walk all over you." They said, "You've changed, you've gotten cold, you're difficult now, you're selfish." But what they were really describing was the end of a comfortable imbalance, the end of a deal they never had to negotiate because you never asked for one. You don't owe anyone an apology for finally stopping the slow harm to yourself. 7. You're moving forward, and the gap is showing. This one is probably the hardest to navigate, because it touches the people you actually love. When you change, really change, not just on the surface, but in how you see the world, in what you'll accept, in what you're building toward, you create distance from people who haven't moved. Not because you're trying to leave anyone behind, not because you've decided you're better than your old life, but because you are simply, factually, in a different place than you used to be. The people who haven't moved feel that gap. They feel it in the phone calls that get shorter, the hangouts that feel duller, the conversations that no longer find a shared frequency, and the question that gaps silently asks endlessly, mercilessly is, why not me? Why am I still the same? That question is uncomfortable, and when a question is too uncomfortable to answer honestly, the mind pushes it outward. It turns the question into a judgment, and then it turns the judgment toward you. Your growth becomes proof that you think you're special. Your changes become evidence of disloyalty. Your new priorities become an implicit rejection of the old ones, and, by extension, of the people who still hold them. You didn't do any of this on purpose. But here's what Jung wants you to actually understand right now. Their reaction isn't really about you. It's about what your progress forces them to feel about their own stagnation. And feeling it, is very, very hard. Number 4, the truth at the bottom of all of it. Step back from all 7 patterns and look at what they have in common. In every case, the resentment you're experiencing isn't a response to your behavior. It's a response to the psychological pressure your presence creates. You're not causing it by doing something wrong. You're causing it by doing something right, by becoming more honest, more aware, more independent, more yourself in a world where most people are working very hard to avoid that exact process in their own lives. Jung believed the deepest purpose of human psychological development was something he called individuation, the process of becoming whole, of integrating the shadow instead of hiding it, of dropping the persona that no longer serves you, of moving toward an authentic self instead of one inherited from everyone else's expectations. Individuation is rare, it's uncomfortable. It demands that you look at the parts of yourself you'd rather not see, accept the parts of your history you'd rather forget, and walk through the world without the safety net of universal approval. But when someone is genuinely doing it, really doing it, not performing it for social points, it creates a very specific kind of disturbance in the people around them. Because individuating people can't be fully controlled. They don't stay in their assigned roles. They don't need your validation. They don't perform the expected reactions. And they have a way of seeing through performances that most people rely on for their sense of safety. That makes them threatening, not in a violent sense, in a deeply existential one. Your becoming is a quiet indictment of everyone who chose not to. Number 5, you don't have to shrink anymore. Understanding all this doesn't automatically make it painless. Recognizing that someone's hostility comes from their own shadow doesn't make the hostility go away, but it changes what you do with it. The most common mistake people make when they first notice this dynamic is trying to fix it, shrinking back, performing more of the expected role, sanding down the edges that make others uncomfortable, going back to the older, more palatable version of yourself, the one that was easier to be around. This is understandable. We're wired for belonging. And the feeling of being slowly excluded from a group you actually cared about it genuinely hurts. But here's the bitter truth. When you make yourself smaller to keep others comfortable, the resentment doesn't disappear. It just becomes more familiar. Because the thing that triggered it, your potential, your honesty, your refusal to stay stuck, was never the real problem. The problem was what those things reflected back to the people around you. And that problem belongs to them, not you. So, what do you actually do? You let some relationships evolve naturally. Not every connection that made sense at one version of you is going to make sense at the next. That's not failure. That's a kind of honesty life rarely lets you look at directly. You stop interpreting every negative reaction as personal feedback. Some of it is, and that feedback deserves to be heard. Someone telling you, with genuine care, that you've been distant lately, that's a voice worth listening to. But the cold shoulder from someone who never needed anything from you until you stopped being convenient, that's information, too. Just a different kind. You look for the people who move toward you when you're honest, instead of away from you. They exist. Trust me, they're out there. The same quality that makes you threatening to people who are hiding from themselves makes you deeply compelling to people who are trying to find themselves. Both reactions come from the same place. One is fear, The other is recognition. Walk toward the ones who recognize you. And most importantly, this is the part that's easiest to skip. You do your own shadow work. Because the same patterns running through the people around you, the projection, the resentment, the subtle hostility, triggered by something that hits too close to home, those patterns exist in you too. Nobody gets out of being human. Everybody has a shadow. The goal isn't to become someone who sees through everyone while staying perfectly transparent yourself. That's just a new persona, the enlightened observer, and that's its own shadow in disguise. The goal is to do the honest, ongoing, imperfect work of becoming more real, more integrated, more yourself a little more, every day. Number 6, the relief you've earned the right to feel. Here's what tends to happen over time when you stay on this path. The social field around you shifts. Some people drift, a few disappear completely, and it hurts, especially if you actually love them. But something else happens too, something nobody warns you about. The relationships that survive and the new ones that form feel different. They're built on something more solid than convenience, more honest than mutual flattery, more durable than the shared agreement to never challenge each other. They're built on actual recognition. One real person seeing another real person and deciding it's worth something. And then something quietly beautiful happens. You stop being so exhausted, because the exhaustion of maintaining performances, pretending to agree, playing roles, managing how you're perceived by people who wouldn't like the real you anyway, is a very specific kind of drain. Relentless, invisible. When it starts to lift, even a little, you realize something that hits hard. How much of your life has been spent keeping everyone else comfortable at the cost of your own honesty? How many years, how many conversations, how many smiles that weren't real? Carl Jung didn't write about shadow integration because it's a pleasant journey. He wrote about it because he believed it was the most important work a human being could do. Important in the sense of necessary, in the sense that without it, you spend your whole life reacting to the world as if through a fogged-up window, seeing shapes but never quite making out what's real. That fogged window is the persona. The shadow is everything on the other side of it. And the work of individuation, your work, and the work of anyone brave enough to choose it, is learning to see clearly. Not perfectly, not without struggle, but clearly enough to know the difference between a relationship that's ending because you're moving forward and a relationship that's ending because you actually did something wrong. That distinction matters more than almost anything else in your life. Most of what looks like rejection, the cold shoulder, the distance, the quiet exclusion, the faint hostility you can't quite name, isn't really about you. It's about the people experiencing it, and the parts of themselves your presence is asking them to look at. You can't change that. You can't perform your way out of being a mirror. What you can do, the only thing you can do, is stop flinching every time someone doesn't like what they see in it. Read that line again, slowly. Let it land. This is the final freedom. You don't have to apologize for your clarity. You don't have to shrink yourself to fit into rooms that have grown too small. You don't have to justify your growth as if it were a crime. When someone pulls away from you because you've gotten more honest, that's not a loss. It's a sorting. Life is clearing a seat at your table, making room for someone who can actually sit beside this version of you. When a relationship doesn't survive your growth, remember this. It was never really about you. It was about the part of them they weren't ready to face. And you have no obligation to stay in the dark with them just because your light makes them uncomfortable. You're allowed to keep going. You're allowed to get clearer, stronger, more real, even when that means some rooms can't hold you anymore. You're allowed. That's the whole message Carl Jung is sending to you across more than a century, through all the noise, through every doubt. Your becoming is not a betrayal, it's the point. The next time you walk into a room and feel that coldness, that distance, that faint hostility you can't quite name, you won't ask, "What did I do wrong?" anymore. You'll just smile, quietly, to yourself, and know, "I didn't do anything wrong. I just stopped making myself small." And that, my friend, that's something nobody can ever take from you again. If this video touched something in you, if it just named the thing you've been feeling for years but could never quite put into words, leave a comment that says, "I'm allowed to keep going." Because sometimes, the words we most need to say out loud are the ones we've been hiding the longest.